All right, hey everybody. My dog is snoring. You might hear him snore. Okay, so it's been a while since made a video. I got a new light, yay. And the last time I had no vinyl at all. I had actually thrown away. It's unfortunate. I had two Extreme albums. The first Extreme album and the third one. The first one was signed by the band, and the third one was apparently kind of rare because it was the middle 90s and nobody had new vinyl releases then. Anyway, I'd hung on to these things for ages, and I haven't had a record player. Well, I had one real chintzy one a few years ago. But anyway, they were in Massachusetts. I was in Texas or Oklahoma. Anyway, so I threw them away. But there's also some karmic thing about when you finally give up to the universe things that you've been clinging on to, it actually gives it back. So I feel like I wish I had kept those Extreme albums. But I feel like if I hadn't given them away, I wouldn't have researched vinyl, and I wouldn't have been that much more into it. So, like, knowing the vinyl community, it's been really cool to see that. I've gotten tons of inspiration from a lot of YouTubers. So I thought, okay, let's. So my last YouTube, I deleted most of my YouTubes because I would spend like a week working on like YouTube videos. They were quirky and fun and random and cool graphics, and nobody would watch them. And I ended up getting really down about it. So I was just like, you know what? I like the platform, but I'm a giver, and I will give and give and give and give and give, and I won't get anything back. It's just the way my life has been. And this is my next attempt at doing that. So we'll see if it works. One of these days it's going to work. So anyway, I got some albums here. I'm actually going to be selling on one of the big platforms out in the world. So I've been doing a lot of busy work getting everything ready for that. And in the meantime, I've acquired a whole bunch of vinyl. So this is actually the Foo Fighters. This is the Target version. It's an alternate cover of Medicine at Midnight. It's a pretty cool album. Actually, I kind of like it more than I thought I would. First impressions of it were unsure. I like the beats of it. It's a good album to listen to. It reminds me a lot of Rocky Horror Picture Show. It has like this mid 70s vibe to it, which I love. Probably because I was a kid in the mid 70s, so I was baby. But I grew up in the aftermath of the 70s. All right, I got some Marvin Gaye. What's going on? This one is more just like for historic purposes. Just a cool, look at that. It's a cool album. I need to listen to this one. That's on my list, so I got to do that because I've never actually sat down and listened to that. This is just like a cultural landmark that I'm familiar with, and I'll be honest, that's as far as I've gotten. But it reminds me of like the '80s sitcoms where like, yeah, let's put on Marvin Gaye, and, get in the mood. So that was my cultural reference on that. This is more like I grew up. I grew up on hair metal, but then into grunge, and I remember getting Nevermind on tape actually, and changed everything. This is unplugged. This is at the end. And I worked at a record store in like '96. Yeah, that probably when this came out, to be honest with you. Or maybe it had been out, but it was probably MTV Unplugged had been aired, but it wasn't out on as an album yet. But this album makes me sad. So of all the albums, so people do the listing of Nirvana of Pearl Jam albums or Metallica albums and ranking them. I would say if I had to put them in order of my favorite to least favorite, that's a tricky one. That with Nirvana, that's hard to do. This one, like, all right, In Utero is so angry, so grungy, so dirty, so noisy. that when I listen to it, it actually improves my mood because I get everything out. In utero to me is like cathartic. It's like this release, and then I can go on with the rest of my day. It energizes me. It focuses me. This album like truly makes me sad. Um, but just because we know what happened, right? So, and that's I don't like to glamorize, it's weird because I've been getting vinyl with the intention of like flipping it, right? And I like Tom Petty. I kind of have a problem with like trying to cash in on somebody's death. You know what I mean? Like I don't know, but for Kurt, I like Kurt, and I like Tom Petty before he died too. But Kurt was just so outspoken, and I was with him mentally. I was a teenager, but what he was saying made sense. He was very counterculture, and I really wish he was here. I think he would have been a guiding voice for our generation if he was able to stay. So I guess I got to keep this kind of lighter because nobody wants to get that depressing. But back to Nirvana real quick. I guess I would probably do In Utero is less listenable than Nevermind. Nevermind is obviously a very listenable album. But I think I would probably go In Utero first, then Nevermind, probably then Bleach, and then Unplugged. And then Incesticide is just kind of a random smattering of everything. Unrankable. Stevie Wonder, on one of the previous videos I did, I talked about Inner Visions and how that was very eye-opening for me. I love Inner Visions, and I love that era of Stevie Wonder, like fulfilling this first finale and Talking Book. Just that whole vibe, the 70s kind of Rasta vibe. I love it. I think Stevie Wonder is amazing, and I'm kind of glad that he got popularized due to like American Idol with like millennials, because for Gen X, I mean, we knew I Just Called to Say I Love You. That was it. I mean, that's all we really knew. Or Part-Time Lover. Okay, but that was 80s Stevie Wonder. So I grew up with that, and he was corny. Like I listened to Motley Crue and Bon Jovi. Like we didn't listen to Stevie Wonder. So when I was in high school, I kind of figured out that Intervisions was pretty cool, and I was glad to see that all the American Idol contestants were trying to sing Stevie Wonder stuff. Billie Eilish, this is like sellout, but it's the modern generation. It's what the kids are listening to these days. So I figured I'd get this one. I've been listening to her a little bit. I think she's like an authentic person. I do. I know that she kind of looks like manufactured to some degree, like the look, like the emo goth chick. Like we've all seen that, but that's refreshing being a 90s kid. So I don't mind it. This one here, Give Me Some Truth. This is pretty cool. This is John Lennon. Everything was remastered for this. It's pretty cool. I mean, for me, the Beatles I got into later in life, like post high school, like really in college. I really got more into the Beatles. Yeah, definitely college. And then his solo stuff I got into after that. And I know I'm late to the party. Like I know all this stuff had happened. The Beatles was mostly before my lifetime. But it's just good to see good artists that can, again, someone that died. I'm not trying to capitalize on that. But he, changed the world. Give Peace a chance. We're kind of not over that yet. Pearl Jam 10. This again is my jam. This is same time frame as Nirvana. This is just a cool album. It just held up over the years. I love how Seattle. I've only been to Seattle twice in my life. But if you're ever curious as to what Seattle's like, if you've never been there, just look at this cover. Look at like the brick. See the brick and like the cool light. I mean, I just picture like an old warehouse with like fluorescent pink lights. Like that's like the Seattle aesthetic, okay? Like you can go out drinking and you could go to a nightclub that looks just like this, okay? Or, it's artsy, but it's also kind of like real and old and kind of weather beaten. And similar to I'm from Boston. Boston's just more like we get the old stuff and it's all contaminated with like uh, toxic years of industrial grossness. I cleaned up the environment. I did environmental work, so that's a legit statement. I'm not being dramatic. I love Boston though. Don't get me wrong, but Seattle has the hipster kind of West Coast thing going for it. Phish, Sigma Oasis. This album came out during lockdown about a year ago, and if you've not heard it yet, I would recommend it. I've been trying to think about what I would consider a rating on this. I would give it, I've been thinking about it, probably like a B plus or around there. Somewhere around a 90, maybe an 89. There's better Phish stuff out there. The end of the album gets a little grating. But it's not like side A is amazing and side B sucks. Side A has some great stuff and it has a couple of weaker spots. Side B has some amazing stuff and some bad stuff. So overall, though, it's the critique about Phish's studio albums is that they sound a little canned sometimes. That they don't, like you go to a Phish show, it's a lot of improv, and then you listen to the album and it's like the song has a distinct beginning, middle, and end. Whereas this, you can kind of hear the beginning, the middle, and then they kind of go like on a detour, and then they stay on that detour for a while. And that it's hard for them to replicate their improvs in a studio format. Okay, so this album, apparently from what the kids say, is what they do. So all I know is that the songs are cool. They're just nice. I did a lot of projects at the last place I lived. I tried to sew masks. I painted my basement. So this was like, okay, I'm at home. I'm going to do some work around the house. And I put this on, and it makes it fun. I think Phish is joyful. It's what it brings to me. I can put Phish on, whatever mood I'm in. If I'm feeling way serious, and, I can put Phish on, and it lightens me up. But it's also beautiful and cathartic, and there's a song that reminds me of my dad. It's called Miss You off of the last album, which kind of got panned a little bit. Big Boat. I like Big Boat, and I cannot lie. Let's see. Because Big Boat was considered a little canned, but it has the song Petrichlor on it, which is amazing. So Weezer, the first album. What can I say about it? There's nothing really I can say about this. Other than the new album is really cool, and I ordered some of them. I ordered the new album, OK Human, on vinyl. So we'll see how that turns out. I love the album. I've listened to it at least 30 times. It's really cool. It's everything songwriting-wise that you love about Weezer without some of the cheeseball. Because they went through the phase where everything was gimmicky and everything was cheesy, and that's always been their thing, but it kind of became like a trope. And this time I realized how cynical I've kind of gotten later in life. I'm working on that. Okay. But I heard, Weezer has a new gimmick. It's like they're going to be an orchestrated band and they're doing all orchestration. And I was like, and I judged it real quick, real harsh when I first heard it, and I ended up liking it a lot, and it's a nice album. It is. I mean, there is the modern pop thing is the orchestrated. There's a word for it, but the orchestrated hits where like that Bridgerton show, which was actually really cool. They did orchestrated versions of all that. Like to me. Like I like to hear Radiohead done like by classical, that's the idea. It's Weezer with a classical vibe, but it's more pop sounding than you would expect. It reminds me a lot of like the old Beatles, all that 70s goodness. What I was talking about with the Foo Fighters album. Picture like if you took this album and mixed some uh, Elton John, or Elton John and the Beatles, and some Billy Joel. Why not? And Weezer, and there you go. The Who. So I saw The Who once. I kind of have an obsession with Englishness. Okay. My dad was from London, so I am a UK citizen. I have a passport, but I've only been in England twice in my life. Okay. So once in 1980 and then once in 2002. Okay. So I guess I saw the Margaret Thatcher England, and I saw the who was the one I can't think of his name, Tony Blair. It was the 50th, the Queen's Jubilee years when I was there last, and I love it. I love it, just everything about it. The Who, I had gotten tickets to see them, and John Entwistle ended up dying. And I was heartbroken because I had heard Quadrophenia like in passing in high school, but I didn't click. I didn't know. I didn't get it. I went to college and I got it on CD, and then I went to England. So I had listened to Quadrophenia. That was my soundtrack to the 2002 visit to England. I just pictured this guy driving like a motorcycle around England. So I would go to the coast and I'd be like, oh, this reminds me of like the cover art, and like that whole album. The art is just amazing. It's the black and white photography. It just tells so much of a story. And I realized that John Entwistle was an amazing bass player. That if you listen to The Who, listen to the bass, and you'll realize that he's gifted. And he ended up dying. And so they postponed the show or something like that. I went and saw them. And I was just crushed because I felt like I was the only one that had discovered it. And I know I'm not, by the way, but in my mind, of all my friends, I'm like, oh my God, the bass of The Who is like where it's at. And then I went and saw them, and it was loud guitar. And I like loud music. I grew up on Motley Crue and Bon Jovi, as I'd said. But this concert was insanely loud. I didn't have great seats, but at this venue, it didn't normally matter. But in this case, it just felt gratuitous. And it was a lot of like 50-year-old drunk guys who were like, The Who! And I was just like, So anyway, that's more of a story than you needed to know about this album. But this is on sale at Target, y'all. So take a look for it. And then this band I've never seen live, and I guess I could go see him with Adam Lambert, but that just doesn't seem right to me. My diatribe about The Who, I mean, I would love to see Brian May play though. One of my favorite bands is Extreme, and they played at the Queen, the Freddie Mercury tribute concert in the 90s. And that's kind of what put Extreme on the map. But Queen, I obviously knew what. So I had this album, actually, the greatest hits. I must have been the UK version of it when I was a kid. My sisters ended up with a copy of it. So it has Bohemian Rhapsody on it, and some of the greatest hits don't have that. So I grew up on pretty much this: Bohemian Rhapsody, Another One Bites the Dust, Killer Queen, Fat Bottom Girls, Bicycle Race, You're My Best Friend, Don't Stop Me Now, Save Me. I don't know if that was on it or not. Crazy Little Thing Called Love, Somebody to Love, Now I'm Here, Good Old Fashioned Lover Boy. I know I'm not adding anything to the discussion on this album, by the way. Play the Game, Flash, and Seven Seas of Rye. It may have been on there. We Will Rock You and We Are the Champions. So obviously an amazing album. But I knew Bohemian Rhapsody when I was a kid. And so when Wayne's World came out, amongst my friends, I was one of the few that knew the song. I mean, I didn't know it by heart, but I was definitely familiar. I'm like, oh yeah, that's the song on that tape that we used to jam to. So it all is full circle. So, and I've gone back, and one of my friends is a big Queen fan, and we talk about the albums. I went through a phase before the internet was good at sourcing music, and I would go periodically, like once every 8 or 9 months, I buy a new Queen album, and that's when I realized that Night at the Opera is a masterpiece. I mean, I love it. I love that from beginning to end. It's a challenging listen for newbies that may not be into it. It's even a challenging listen even when you know it, because it's not as pretty as you think it is. There's a lot of rock and noise in that album, but it's masked as this symphonic thing.